Remember when De Niro flew through a fireball and Pesci tightened a vice until an eye popped out? Casino looked like pure spectacle, but the real story is stranger than anything on screen. Today we're counting down 15 weird facts you never knew about Casino. Number 15. Casino opens with narration so authoritative it feels like a history lesson, because it essentially is one. Here is the thing though, the book it was based on was not actually finished when the screenplay was already being written. Nicholas Pileggi originally planned to publish his book first, then sell the film rights. Martin Scorsese told him to reverse the order. The two collaborated on the screenplay for 5 months, while Pileggi was still writing the book, each feeding material to the other in real time. The book came out only 6 weeks before the film's November 1995 release. Because both were in production simultaneously, Universal's legal department forced the creative team to use "adapted from a true story" instead of "based on a true story" to rename the Stardust as the fictional Tangiers, and to refer to Chicago only as Back Home. Every location name audiences hear in Casino is a deliberate fiction constructed specifically to protect the production from litigation. Think about that. The layered geography of the film, the sense that everything is slightly displaced from reality, is not a creative flourish. It is a legal requirement built into the language of the script before filming began. The book and the film shaped each other in ways no one had planned. And the opening sequence that frames all of it had its own complicated origin, because it almost looked nothing like what ended up on screen. Number 14. The opening of Casino is one of the great first images of any crime film from the decade. Robert De Niro's body flying through a fireball in slow motion, suspended against hellfire, set to Bach. It reframes the entire film before a single word of dialogue is spoken. That image almost did not exist. According to Scorsese on the DVD commentary, the original opening was a domestic argument between Sam and Ginger on a lawn of their house. Scorsese scrapped it, calling it too detailed, and replaced it with the car bomb sequence. The explosion was filmed 3 times, and the third take is what appears in the film. The location chosen was the parking lot of Tony Roma's at 620 East Sahara Avenue, the actual site where the real Frank Rosenthal was nearly killed on October 4th, 1982. Scorsese said he wanted to open with Sam's soul about to go straight down to hell, a theological image that reframes everything that follows as the story of a man already damned. A domestic argument would have grounded the film in realism from frame 1. The explosion places it immediately in myth, which is the register the entire film operates in. That decision, made before a single line of the film's real story had been seen, changes how every subsequent scene lands. The title sequence that follows the explosion was the final creative work of a living legend, and it cost less than most people would ever expect. Number 13. The opening titles of Casino are among the most iconic credit sequences of the 1990s. Robert De Niro's body falling through fire and hellfire graphics, set to Bach's St. Matthew Passion performed by the actual Chicago Symphony Orchestra, conducted by Sir George Solti. It is extraordinary work, and it came from the last creative project of one of the greatest designers in film history. Saul Bass designed the sequence as the final work of his life. He had previously created the opening titles for Psycho, Vertigo North by Northwest, and 4 earlier Scorsese films. He died in April 1996, just 5 months after Casino's release. The sequence is, quite literally, his farewell. Producer Barbara DeFina confirmed that the sequence's hard production cost was just $11,316, not counting the Bass's design fee. Bass said considerable experimentation was required to nail the exact trajectory of De Niro's body through the flames. He described the creative concept as Dante's Inferno and Hieronymus Bosch, set against Bach's St. Matthew Passion. The flight path of De Niro's falling body was not accidental, but precisely calibrated to feel like a soul descending. Not bad for just over $11,000. A sequence that cost less than a mid-range used car became one of the most referenced title designs in cinema history, and it closes a career that permanently reshaped what movie credits could communicate. Number 12. James Woods as Lester Diamond is one of the film's most unsettling supporting performances. Slick, desperate, and dangerous in a completely different register from Joe Pesci's raw violence. The character is unforgettable, and Woods got the part by leaving a message. When Woods heard Scorsese was interested in working with him, he called the director's office and left a single voicemail, any time, any place, any part, any fee. He was cast immediately as Lester Diamond, Ginger's pimp and ex-lover. Here is what most audiences do not know. Most of Woods' dialogue was improvised on set. The entire phone call with Ginger after her wedding to Ace, in which Lester is doing cocaine with a prostitute while taking the call, was entirely Woods' idea. The scripted scene had Lester with no dialogue at all. Woods came up with the premise that Lester genuinely loves Ginger in his own warped way, which makes him far more dangerous than a straightforward sleaze. A character who could have been one-dimensional became a study in corrupted loyalty entirely because of improvisation decisions made on the day of filming. Every Lester scene is a performance being invented in real time, including the most menacing ones. The role of Ginger went through an even more complicated casting process, with at least 9 other actresses ahead of Sharon Stone in the conversation, including one who had never made a mainstream film before. Number 11. Sharon Stone as Ginger is so complete and so specific that it is nearly impossible to imagine anyone else in the role. The performance feels inevitable. The casting process was anything but. The producers considered Nicole Kidman, Michelle Pfeiffer, Melanie Griffith, Renee Russo, Uma Thurman, Cameron Diaz, Kate Capshaw, Madonna, and former adult performer Tracy Lords before Stone convinced Scorsese to take her seriously. Michelle Pfeiffer actively turned the role down, saying she felt she had already played a similar character in Scarface. Stone later told the Fly on the Wall podcast that she refused to participate in a cattle call audition. "I'm not going to line up with showgirls and not going to line up with the other 3,000 actresses. I eventually said, no, I'm not coming in until you get to serious casting." She used leverage she barely had, as she was not yet the commercial force she would soon become, to force the production to treat her as a contender rather than a candidate. The stubbornness that got Stone into the room is the same quality that defines Ginger throughout the film. The casting process and the character share exactly the same emotional logic. Once Stone was in, she built a research archive so dense it became a physical landmark on her son's bookshelf 25 years later, and the preparation behind it is one of the most quietly remarkable stories in the entire production. Number 10. Ginger's descent is the emotional spine of Casino. It is a performance of such precision that it feels researched rather than acted. It was. The real Jerry McGee, on whom Ginger is based, died in 1982, found heavily drugged in the lobby of a Los Angeles hotel, cause of death an accidental overdose of cocaine, Valium, and whiskey. Stone could not meet her subject. Scorsese instead prescribed 3 films, Valley of the Dolls, A Woman's Vengeance, and The Passion of Joan of Arc. He described them as films about women punished for their ambition. Stone met secretly with Jerry's old friends and discovered that Jerry's favorite song was BB. King's The Thrill Is Gone. Scorsese put it on the soundtrack. Stone built a research binder containing police reports, call sheets, and personal notes so substantial that 25 years later her son nearly fell off a bookshelf reaching past it. Stone told Vogue, "I really felt like she came back to life through me. By the time it got to her death scene, I felt like it was 100% her." The depth audiences feel watching Ginger is the direct result of a dead woman's friends talking to an actress in secret, and a director assigning homework. Every piece of music Ginger reacts to, every gesture of self-destruction, is rooted in documented behavior. The film is not imagining Jerry McGee. It is reconstructing her. Number 9. Ginger's introduction, throwing casino chips into the air at the craps table in a white and gold beaded gown, is one of the most iconic images in the film. It is glamour made cinematic. The reality behind it was considerably more painful. The gown was pulled from Stone's own closet by costume designer Rita Ryak, and reportedly weighed 45 pounds. The weight reactivated an old spinal injury and caused Stone serious physical pain throughout the shoot. She was performing one of the most physically demanding dramatic roles of her career while managing a genuine injury from the clothes she was required to wear. Stone had to lobby personally to be campaigned for Best Actress rather than Best Supporting at the 1996 Academy Awards. She won the Golden Globe for Best Actress in a Drama and was nominated for the Oscar, ultimately losing to Susan Sarandon for Dead Man Walking. Stone told IndieWire she had been laughed at when nominated for Basic Instinct at the Golden Globes years earlier. The Casino recognition was not just professional validation, but personal vindication. A performance made under significant physical duress, conducted in a gown the actress had worn in her own life, fought for at the awards campaign level, becomes something different when you know all of that. The glamour of Ginger's introduction is being sustained by an actress in genuine physical pain. Number 8. Joe Pesci tightening a vice on a man's head until his eyeball is forced out of its socket is the scene Casino is most notorious for. It is the sequence most people cite when the film comes up. And it was almost the scene that was never meant to survive. According to Scorsese and reporting in Collider, He filmed the head in the vice sequence specifically as a sacrificial offering. The plan was to give the MPAA something so extreme they would demand its removal, diverting their attention from the rest of the film's violence. When the MPAA returned an NC-17 rating, Scorsese discovered they had not specifically singled out the vice scene at all. He trimmed a beat from it, made other minor adjustments elsewhere, and won an R rating on appeal. The scene he built to be deleted became the most referenced violent moment in the film. It is now the first thing anyone mentions when Casino comes up. The story itself is not invented. The real Anthony Spilotro performed this exact torture on a man named Billy McCarthy in 1962 to extract the name of an accomplice. Nicholas Pileggi documented it in the book. Scorsese put it on screen as bait. The MPAA missed it, and now it lives forever. The film's most authentic violent moment was performed by someone who had done the real thing, not as an actor, but as an actual participant. That story is even more remarkable. All right, we're at the halfway mark, and things are about to get even wilder. Before we hit the top 7, I want to hear from you. What's your favorite Casino quote or moment? Drop it in the comments. And if you're enjoying this, smash that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. It really does help the channel grow. Number 7. The parking lot shooting in Casino is one of the film's most efficient acts of violence. Precise, unsentimentalized, and disturbingly practiced. Now you will know why. Frank Collada, the real-life model for Frank Vincent's character Frankie Marino, and a confessed killer who worked directly under Anthony Spilotro, served as Casino's technical advisor. He earned an on-screen role as the hitman who commits the parking lot shooting. The actor originally cast in the shooter role could not get the execution right. Scorsese told Collada, "Show him how you did it." Collada, who had actually committed a nearly identical murder, demonstrated the method so convincingly that Scorsese replaced the actor with Collada on the spot. Collada spent 4 months on set with a personal bodyguard. He did not play a version of violence. He performed a recreation of events from his own criminal history under the direction of a filmmaker who recognized authenticity the moment he saw it. The parking lot shooting is not choreographed violence. It is a man demonstrating, under direction, what killing actually looks like. This is the most compressed summary of what Casino is doing as a project, blurring the line between documentation and drama until there is nothing left between them. Collada was not the only real figure from this world who made it into the film. Some of the cameos are hiding in plain sight throughout the production, and one piece of the film's ending is not a production effect at all. Number 6. The final sequence of Casino, Scorsese's lament that corporations replaced the mob and turned Las Vegas into a theme park, plays over footage of casino implosions that feel almost elegiac. Most audiences assume it is production work. It is not. The implosion footage is real archival footage of the actual Dunes Hotel's North Tower demolition on October 27, 1993, an event that drew 200,000 spectators. The landmark hotel, which served as the exterior of the fictional Tangiers, was itself demolished just days before Casino's release, and Tim Burton used its destruction footage in Mars Attacks. Oscar Goodman, Frank Rosenthal's actual defense attorney and later mayor of Las Vegas from 1999 onward, plays himself as Ace's lawyer on screen. Don Rickles, who knew the real Rosenthal personally from his Las Vegas stand-up nights, plays casino manager Billy Sherbert. Catherine Scorsese, the director's mother, appears as Piscano's mother in her 8th and final cameo in one of her son's films. Almost every face representing institutional Las Vegas was drawn from the real population of that world. The film's sense of documentary authority comes from the people on screen being real people from real rooms. The ending of Casino is not a metaphor for the end of something. It is footage of that thing actually ending. And the access that made the film's authentic wardrobe possible involved a story that is stranger still. Number 5. Robert De Niro's 70 custom suits in Casino are so distinctive they have been analyzed by fashion historians. The wardrobe feels like a character in itself, because it was built from the real man's actual clothes. According to costume designer Rita Ryak, the production team made trips into Frank Rosenthal's personal closet during their preparation. The production hired Rosenthal's real Beverly Hills shirt maker, Anto, to recreate his pastel shirts and ties, and commissioned 70 custom suits from tailors Carlos Velasco, Tommy Velasco, and Vincent Zullo. Despite all of this collaboration, Rosenthal was not allowed on set. De Niro confirmed in a Jake Hamilton interview that Rosenthal's presence was simply not possible. Rosenthal saw the finished film only once, in a private screening with Nicholas Pileggi, and told Cardoza's Player magazine he would rate De Niro's portrayal a 7 on a scale of 1 to 10. Rosenthal objected to only one specific detail, the scene of his character juggling on his television show, which he insisted he never did. On Sharon Stone's portrayal of his late wife Jerry, he declined to comment entirely. Every suit De Niro wears is a verified reconstruction of what Rosenthal actually owned, watched over by the man himself who never set foot on the set where it was being worn. The film's most improvised performance came from an entirely different direction, and the pen in the bar scene changed everything. Number 4, Joe Pesci stabbing a man repeatedly in the neck with a fountain pen, escalating from nothing to lethal violence in seconds, is one of the film's most suddenly frightening sequences. It feels spontaneous in a way that most scripted violence does not. That is because it was spontaneous. The scene was improvised on set by Pesci, drawing on a story technical advisor Frank Collada told Scorsese about a man named Larry Newman, whom Collada watched stab another man with a pen in prison over a minor slight. Here is the part that makes it remarkable. The real Frank Rosenthal later confirmed in an interview with Cardoza's Player magazine that a version of this incident actually happened to him personally at the Stardust bar. An improvised performance rooted in a witnessed crime was later confirmed by the real-world victim of that same kind of attack. Pesci's preparation drew heavily on Collada's first-hand accounts of how Anthony Spilotro operated, not the mythology of organized crime, but the operational reality of a man who had grown up inside that world and watched its violence from the inside out. The pen scene is a document of actual behavior that happened to be recreated in fiction before anyone knew the primary source would corroborate it. Every time you watch Pesci reach for that pen, you are watching the reconstruction of a real moment that actually happened to the man De Niro is playing. Number 3, the casino floor scenes in Casino feel genuinely alive. The chaos of real gambling, real noise, real bodies moving through real space. That quality is not production design. It is because they filmed in an actual casino while it was operating. Scorsese and cinematographer Robert Richardson shot nearly all interior casino scenes at the Riviera Hotel between 1 in the morning and 4 in the morning to avoid disturbing actual gamblers. The Riviera was so enthusiastic about the production that management hung a banner outside reading, "Robert De Niro, Sharon Stone, and Joe Pesci filming the new movie Casino inside," eliminating any remaining pretense of secrecy. The production filmed more than 289 scenes across 6 weeks inside a working casino. Real former FBI agents and parolees served as consultants on set. And the Riviera Hotel was demolished in 2016, making every casino interior in the film a record of a building that no longer exists. Richardson, working under Scorsese's direction, used the real casino as both location and subject, a living museum of a specific moment in Las Vegas history that the film was simultaneously documenting and eulogizing. Every casino interior scene is now a historical document of spaces that were demolished. Watching Casino is, at this point, partly an act of preservation. The most surprising creative detail of the entire production involves a single shot, one Scorsese named as his personal favorite, that turns out to be borrowed from a Victorian pastoral made 30 years earlier. Number 2, Casino is relentlessly intense, and it holds a specific statistical distinction that captures something essential about how Scorsese chose to tell this story. According to Guinness World Records, Casino contained 422 uses of the F word, 2.4 per minute, a record at the time of its release. The sheer verbal density is Scorsese's deliberate argument that the world of the film sounds exactly like this, no more polished than the people who inhabited it. Here is the detail almost nobody knows. Scorsese has said in interviews that his favorite single shot in the entire 3-hour film is the overhead angle of Sharon Stone at the craps table throwing chips into the air. That composition is essentially identical to Julie Christie, throwing grain into the air in John Schlesinger's Far from the Madding Crowd from 1967, a film based on Thomas Hardy's 19th century novel. Whether conscious homage or deep cinematic memory surfacing at the right moment, the connection places Casino's most glamorous image inside a tradition of doomed women in pastoral literature. Ginger's first moment of power in the film is shot the way a Victorian tragedy would frame a woman about to lose everything. The most profane film of its decade contains a director's favorite shot that traces back to a 19th century novel about rural England, which is, in its own way, exactly what Casino is. Number 1. Casino ends with a man narrating his own irrelevance from a house in San Diego while the world he built is demolished behind him. The film has outlasted almost every physical element of its own production. The Riviera Hotel, where all interior casino scenes were shot between 1 and 4 in the morning, was demolished in 2016. The Dunes Hotel, whose real implosion footage closes the film, was destroyed in 1993. The landmark hotel used as the Tangier's exterior was demolished days before the film's own release. Frank Rosenthal died in October 2008. Anthony Spilotro and his brother Michael were beaten to death and buried in an Indiana cornfield in 1986, exactly as the film depicts. The film's budget of approximately $52 million produced a worldwide gross of roughly $116 million. It was not the commercial blockbuster its predecessor Goodfellas had been, but it has accumulated a critical and cultural weight that has grown every year since its release. Nicholas Pileggi, who wrote both the book and the screenplay while simultaneously finishing one and starting the other, created the definitive account of a world that was already in the process of disappearing when he was writing about it. Casino was not made as an elegy. It was made as a crime epic. The elegiac quality arrived later. As the real people died, the real buildings fell, and the city depicted in the film became a different city entirely. Casino was not built to become an archive. It was built to be a crime film. The locations are demolished, the real figures are gone, and the specific Las Vegas captured between 1 and 4 in the morning no longer exists. A book unfinished, a title sequence costing $11,000, a hitman hired to demonstrate his own methods, and a director who built a scene to sacrifice to the ratings board. All of it came together once. Unrepeatable. If this video surprised you, drop your favorite fact in the comments. Like, subscribe, and share this with someone who loves this movie as much as you do. And as always, in the casino, the cardinal rule is to keep them playing and to keep them coming back. We'll see you next time.